Welcome to Honeybee. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the bell. Real stories of love, lies, and betrayal, where every truth stings. Let's begin. I never thought my life would reach the point where betrayal would shatter not only my marriage, but also the very foundation of my family. I always believed that trust was the pillar that held everything together. Trust between a husband and wife. Trust between parent and children. Trust that our home was a safe place untouched by disloyalty. For years, I lived with the conviction that I had built such a foundation with my wife. We had our ups and downs, like any couple, but I never suspected the cracks that were slowly forming beneath the surface. My wife and I had been together for many years, raising our daughter and building what I thought was a strong family. I was proud of us, proud of the life we had created. Our daughter was my pride and joy, the reason I worked long hours and made sacrifices. I wanted to give her everything that I never had, and seeing her grow into a young woman filled my heart with joy. When she eventually told us she was engaged, I was overwhelmed with happiness. I thought we were entering a new chapter of life, one where we would watch our little girl build a family of her own. Her fiancé seemed like a good man at first. He was polite, respectful, and attentive. I welcomed him into our home without hesitation. We would have dinners together, laugh over small things, and I began to trust him almost like a son. The thought that he would one day officially become part of our family made me feel like we were truly blessed. I had no reason to doubt him, no reason to suspect that behind the smiles and politeness, a secret was being nurtured that would eventually destroy us. It all began with little signs, the kind you brush off at first. My wife would get overly dressed when she knew he was coming over. She would laugh at his jokes in a way she never laughed at mine anymore. Sometimes when I walked into the room, I felt the air change, as if I had interrupted something. I told myself I was imagining it. I convinced myself that my insecurities were making me paranoid, that I was seeing shadows where there was only light. After all, what man in his right mind would ever think his wife could betray him with their daughter's fiancé? That kind of betrayal felt too outrageous, too impossible to even consider. But the truth has a way of surfacing no matter how much we try to ignore it. One evening, I returned home earlier than usual. My plan had been to surprise my wife with dinner. I had been working late for weeks and wanted to make it up to her with something special. I carried the bags of food in, smiling to myself, picturing the look on her face when she realized I had thought of her. But the smile disappeared the moment I stepped inside. The house was unusually quiet, yet I could hear faint noises coming from upstairs. My heart began to race. At first, I thought our daughter had come home early with her fiancé, but then I remembered she had mentioned she would be at a friend's house. Slowly, I climbed the stairs, every step heavy with dread. The sounds grew clearer, and a sickening feeling gnawed at my gut. I reached the bedroom door, our bedroom door, and that was when my world collapsed. There, before my eyes, was a scene that seared itself into my memory forever. My wife and my daughter's fiancé were together in the most intimate way. For a moment, I froze. I couldn't move, couldn't breathe. It was as if the ground had opened beneath me, and I was falling endlessly into a pit of betrayal. The bag slipped from my hands, crashed into the floor, and they both turned in shock. My wife's face drained to color, and his eyes widened in panic. I didn't shout. I didn't rage. I stood there in silence, my chest heaving, my mind trying to comprehend the reality of what I was seeing. I wanted it to be a nightmare, something I would wake up from with relief. But it wasn't. It was real, raw, and cruel. My wife stumbled, trying to cover herself, while he muttered excuses that only fueled my disgust. The betrayal cut deeper than any wound I had ever felt. This wasn't just about infidelity. This was about my wife, the woman I trusted most, destroying not only our marriage, but also our daughter's happiness. This was about my daughter's fiancé, a man I had welcomed like a son, shattering the sanctity of our family. I looked at them both and realized that nothing would ever be the same again. I walked out of the room without another word. My legs felt weak, but somehow I managed to keep moving. I left the house that night, my mind clouded with disbelief and anger. I couldn't process it all at once. I couldn't even decide what hurt more, the betrayal of my wife, or the devastation my daughter would face when she found out. I knew I couldn't hide it from her, but I also knew telling her would destroy her. Days turned into weeks, and the tension in the house became unbearable. My wife tried to talk to me, tried to explain, but every word that left her lips felt like poison. How could she justify sleeping with our daughter's fiancé? How could she ever expect forgiveness? My daughter eventually found out. She saw the truth in my eyes, in the silence that had taken over our home. When reality hit her, she broke down in tears. The look of betrayal on her face mirrored my own pain. She had lost not only her fiancé, but also her respect for her mother. As if things couldn't get worse, my wife later revealed she was pregnant. The moment those words left her mouth, the room spun around me. I could hardly believe it. The possibility that the child she was carrying might not even be mine was a weight too heavy to bear. I demanded a test, but deep down, I already knew the betrayal had reached its peak, cutting into the deepest part of my soul. I couldn't stay in that marriage any longer. My heart was beyond repair, my trust forever broken. Filing for divorce was the only option left. It wasn't a decision I took lightly. I had spent years with this woman, built a family, shared memories. But those memories were now tainted, and the future I once imagined with her had vanished. The divorce papers became a symbol of my strength, a way to reclaim my dignity from the ruins of betrayal. Part of me grieved not just the loss of my marriage, but also the loss of the family I thought I had. The home we had built was nothing more than a house full of lies. My daughter and I grew closer through the pain, finding comfort in each other's presence. She knew that none of this was her fault, and I reminded her of that every day. She deserved love, honesty, and loyalty, all the things that had been taken from her. Even now, as I reflect on those events, the pain is still raw. Betrayal leaves scars that time may dull, but never fully heal. I've learned that sometimes the people you trust the most are the ones capable of hurting you the deepest. And though I lost a wife, I gained clarity. I realized that no matter how dark the storm, there's always a way forward, even if it means walking alone. ChatGPT said, after filing for divorce, my life turned into a battlefield of emotions, legal battles, and endless sleepless nights. The papers were signed and handed over, but the process was far from over. Every day felt like walking through shards of glass, each step a reminder of betrayal that had torn apart my world. The woman I once considered my partner, the mother of my daughter, had now become a stranger to me. The news of the affair spread quickly within our circle of family and friends. Whispers turned into stares, and soon enough, I couldn't go anywhere without feeling the weight of judgment. Some pitied me, some criticized me for not noticing the signs earlier, and others simply avoided me, as if my broken marriage was contagious disease. I didn't care about their opinions as much as I cared about the impact it had on my daughter. She had to face the humiliation of her peers, the whispers behind her back, and the sting of betrayal every time she was reminded that her own fiancé had been intimate with her mother. I tried to shield her from as much pain as I could, but there are some wounds no father can protect his child from. She would sit in her room for hours, crying, asking me questions I couldn't answer. Why, Dad? How could she do this to me? How could he? Each question tore me apart because I didn't have the words to explain why people hurt those they claimed to love. All I could do was hold her hand, wipe her tears, and remind her that she was innocent in all of this, that she didn't deserve the heartbreak that had been forced on her. Meanwhile, my wife tried to reach out to me. She sent long messages, left voicemails, and even showed up at my workplace once, begging me to forgive her. Her eyes were swollen from crying, her words desperate, but they meant nothing to me anymore. Every time I looked at her, I didn't see the woman I married. I saw betrayal dressed in familiar skin. Forgiveness was not something I could give her, not when the wound was still fresh, not when she had crossed the most unforgivable boundary. The pregnancy complicated everything further. I avoided her as much as I could, but the reality was unavoidable. If the child wasn't mine, then she would be raising a child conceived from betrayal. If it was mine, then I was tied to her forever, even when I wanted nothing more than to sever every connection. I demanded a paternity test, and those days of waiting for the results felt like a punishment I didn't deserve. I lived in constant torment, my mind spinning with every possibility. When the results came back, the truth hit me harder than I expected. The child was not mine. That single piece of paper changed everything. Any lingering doubts, any small corner of my heart that still held on to hope, crumbled into dust. My wife's tears, her pleas, her promises, they all became meaningless. She had chosen her path, and I was done being dragged into her chaos. The divorce proceedings dragged on, filled with heated arguments, accusations, and painful reminders of everything that had gone wrong. She tried to fight for the house, for possessions, for things that once symbolized our life together. But those things no longer mattered to me. The house was no longer a home. It was a prison filled with memories of lies. I told my lawyer I didn't care about the material things. All I wanted was peace, a fresh start, and custody of my daughter. The courtroom became a place where our pain was displayed for strangers to judge. I sat there, listening to her lawyer paint me as cold and unforgiving, while my own lawyer revealed the ugly truth of her betrayal. The worst part was seeing my daughter have to sit through it, to hear details she should never have been exposed to. But despite everything, she stood by me, her loyalty unshaken. She was my strength, the reason I kept going when the weight of it all threatened to crush me. When the divorce was finalized, it felt like a strange mix of relief and grief. Relief because I was finally free from the constant reminder of betrayal. Grief because I knew a part of my life had died forever. I walked out of that courthouse feeling lighter, yet carrying invisible scars that no one else could see. Starting over was not easy. Nights were the hardest. Lying awake, haunted by memories of the past, of laughter that once filled our home, of promises that turned into lies. There were moments I questioned myself, wondering if I had missed signs, if I could have done something differently to prevent it all. But deep down, I knew the truth. Her choices were hers, and I couldn't blame myself for the destruction she caused. Slowly, I began rebuilding. I poured my energy into my work, into creating a stable future for myself and my daughter. She needed me more than ever, and I wasn't about to let her down. We spent more time together, finding comfort in simple things, going for walks, cooking meals, watching movies late into the night. Those moments reminded me that love still existed, even if it wasn't the kind I once thought would last forever. There were days when the pain came rushing back, triggered by a memory, a place, or even familiar scent. But with time, the pain dulled. It didn't vanish, but it no longer controlled me. I learned to carry it quietly, like a scar that reminded me of what I had survived. I refused to let bitterness define me. I refused to let her betrayal poison the rest of my life. My daughter, too, found strength through the pain. It wasn't easy for her. She had lost her trust in relationships, lost the person she thought would be her life partner. But she also grew stronger, wiser, and more resilient. We leaned on each other, and in many ways, the betrayal that broke our family also brought the two of us closer than ever before. Looking back now, I see that ending that marriage was not just about escaping betrayal. It was about choosing myself, my dignity, and my peace of mind. It was about refusing to live in the shadow of lies and reclaiming the future I deserved. The road ahead was uncertain, but at least it was mine to walk, free from deception. And though I carry the memories of that night, when I walked into my own bedroom and saw the unforgivable, I also carry the lesson it taught me. Trust is fragile, love is sacred, and betrayal is a poison that destroys everything in its path. I lost a wife, but I didn't lose myself. I didn't lose my role as a father, and I didn't lose the capacity to rebuild. In the end, I came to realize that sometimes the greatest strength lies not in holding on, but in letting go. And so, I let go of her, of the pain, of the life I once thought I had. What remained was a bond between a father and daughter, unshaken by betrayal, strengthened by survival, and unbreakable in the face of all that tried to tear us apart.